What a day. It has been wild so far. We have some crazy news with Deion Sanders. And then, of course, it is the first day of the Rockies season. I'm already repping my gear. We're going to get into all of it on today's rundown. Starting us off, though, is Deion Sanders signing a massive 5-year, $54 million extension. He is now one of the top 10 highest paid coaches in college football. Deservedly so. People can be mixed as much as they want to about this. It is a good move overall. And honestly, if you look at it from a school standpoint, they're making all this money back. They are. Deion Sanders brings in such a large amount of students and young people who want to not only play for the school, but want to just be there in all of its aura, in this school's aura that it has been building. It's insane. Now, breaking it down year by year, he's going to be here through 2029. In 2025, he'll make 10 million. Same in 2026. 27, he'll make 11 million. 28, he'll make 11 million. And then in 2029, he'll finish with $12 million. That's an insane amount of money to be paying him. And not saying that it's a bad thing. That's just a large amount of money to be paying him. And he honestly deserves it. You know, you look what he's done in these past seasons. Last season was incredible. You know, you look at the first season when he came in, maybe not the best. They had that huge win over TCU that was just so much fun to watch. You go back to that game and you could see that they were building something with this Buffs team. And they did. They did. Their goal was to make a bowl game, and they did. They were so close to going a little bit further. But then last season, you look back at, what had happened. There were those two losses, that Kansas State loss and then that Kansas loss that really kind of just sent them over the edge. They lost to Nebraska earlier in the season, but still overall a great season, finishing 9-4, including the loss to BYU in the Alamo Bowl. Overall, you watch what they did. There's so much you can say. They were great. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter are top 10 picks in the NFL. And you can give that credit to Deion Sanders. You can. And you watch people like Julian Lewis, who's coming in. He wants to be a star here. He's going to get that star power playing with Deion Sanders. There's that kind of attraction that he brings. He's so media friendly. The media loves him. And for fair reasons. I mean, you watch him, he's going out there with his glasses and his hat on. He's having fun. He's making it a spectacle. He's making CU fun again. He's making it a school that is no longer looked at as a bottom tier football program. They had a lot of glory. CU was once a very prideful team, a prideful school built around their football team, and he's bringing that back. So this signing happened only about 40 minutes ago, and it's clearly already drawing a lot of buzz. Brian Howell was the one to break the news, and it's just incredible the amount of people who are commenting under this tweet who are just shocked, and some are happy, some are upset, some are really pissed off, and you shouldn't be. Deion Sanders is the guy. He is here to stay and see you, especially with all of this negative talk of, well, is he going to the Cowboys? Is he going to a different school? Is he going to go to the NFL? That's all been squandered. It's no longer here. He is here to stay till 2029. He's making $54 million, a 5-year extension. And again, you look at, he's now a top 10 paid football coach in the NCAA. So now you have to change your perspective to, wow, this is so great right now, living this moment, to, all right, we're looking towards the future. What does he have to do? What are the standards that Deion Sanders has to live up to now, being one of the highest paid football coaches in the league? There's a lot of pressure on him. A lot of greatness is to come with this, but now the pressure starts to rise because Deion, being paid that much, you can't go out and do what you did, not this season, but the season prior, where you didn't play that well, or the guys didn't play that well. This last season, fine. You went out there 9-4. You lost in the Alamo Bowl. You sent off Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in the best way possible. That not the best way, but one of the best ways. They got to the bowl. They got Peggy to a bowl game. So that was a good season. But now there are so many more expectations that he has to live up to. And we're not just talking about losing in a bowl game to BYU. We're talking about you got to be a 12 seed. You got to be high up. You got to win your the conference. That's the kind of expectations that are now allowed to be pushed onto CU. And you can say that they were maybe allowed in years prior, but you got to give the first 2 seasons a little bit of a break. Really, he's only been here for 2 seasons, so you got to give it a bit of a break. He made it to a bowl game in his second season. Perfect. Now it's time to really push. Now it's time to actually do something that's worth looking back on and saying, we ended with the win. We ended in the best way possible. National championship. You have to start talking like that when you're being paid in the top 10, top 10 rank of the football coaches in the NCAA. It's definitely going to be very exciting to see what they end up doing next season, because it's going to be, just jam-packed with energy and excitement. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, moving on, it is Colorado Rockies time in Denver. It is here. Colorado Rockies baseball is back. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, again, it's up to you. But hey, whatever you think about the Colorado Rockies organization, and all of us are probably on the similar boat that it's terrible. Baseball's fun. Coors Field is back. It is a great time of year. Next week is actually the home opener, but today they are taking on the Tampa Bay Rays, 2:10 p.m. First game of the season for the Colorado Rockies. Can they start with a win? 1-0. Go 1-0 every day, and you can end this season. I don't see a loss in the Rockies schedule this season. Now, obviously, I'm just joking, because I'm probably seeing a lot more than just one loss. They're coming off back-to-back 100-loss seasons. There's not much hope surrounding this Rockies organization. And for the past 4 or 5 years, there hasn't been much hope. Honestly, there isn't really any hope to look at when you think about the Colorado Rockies coming back. You can blame it on the organization, which is very fair, because the main thing you see with the Colorado Rockies and the organization, they don't like to spend money. And it's evident. The Rockies line for wins is projected at 59.5. They're not even projected for 60 wins. 60 wins. That is what the Rockies are projected for. They're 102 games is what they're saying the Rockies are going to lose. If they can't win 60 games this season, it is really time to light a fire under the organization. And people can do whatever they want. And this is the main point of conversation when you talk about the organization. There's nothing that's going to make them change at this point. You can strike the games. You can say, I'm not going. Just totally black out. Nobody's going to any more of the games. But that won't ever happen, because people love these Rockies games. People love Coors Field. They love going to downtown. Lodo is packed every single Rockies game. I can't wait to see what it's like next Friday, because it's always just a piece. It's a beacon of energy in downtown Denver come opening day. It really is. Now, there's only so much that can be done until people really start to get upset and actually take it into their own hands of saying, nobody's going to any more Rockies games. We're done. But it's going to be a while before that actually happens. Now, Kyle Freeland will be the first to take the mound. He is the starting pitcher for the Rockies today. And then, Chris Bryant, this guy, he's going to be a topic of conversation. Only played in 159 games so far in the 3 seasons that he's been with the Rockies. And it's really upsetting to see, because this guy was a former MVP, a Hank Aaron Award winner, a Rookie of the Year. This guy was supposed to be the guy. When the Rockies got him, he was supposed to be that spark, that kind of guy that, got the Rockies fans all excited again. But he just isn't. 159 games in 3 seasons. You're not even playing a full season. It's just not where you want to be at as somebody who's supposed to be the star of this team. So again, first game of the season, it's going to be so much fun to watch. I'm definitely going to be tuning in, because the baseball is America's pastime. You got to watch it. You got to watch it when it's on. And Rockies are, here. Unfortunately, they are by far the worst team in Denver. But it's still the Rockies become the star when this time comes around. Now, guys, today is your Mile High Milestone number 11. We are talking about one of the biggest things that has ever happened in Broncos history. We're bringing in Mike Kliss to talk about that. And today we're talking about when Mike Shanahan was hired by the Denver Broncos. Mike, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Obviously, you remember this. It was huge news all around the nation, honestly. Mike Shanahan was probably the best coach in Broncos history. And honestly, I don't even want to say probably because he is the best coach in the Broncos history. And they fired him after 3 seasons of going 24-24. It seems almost a little bit premature at the time. And now looking back at that, was it a little bit premature to fire him after those seasons?
That was a point of discussion when he got fired. On the one hand, he went a long time, I think 10 years. He won the Super Bowl in 97 and 98.
Yep.
And so it was 10 years without a Super Bowl. And it was 10 years with just one playoff win. And so in that regard, those 2 back-to-back Super Bowls got him a lot of equity. And he hung on a lot longer than many people would have thought. You go back to Doug Peterson with Philadelphia, was fired 2 years after he won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a little strange the way it worked out. I do think the run of mediocrity hurt Mike. They had it together. They had a good team in 2005, and then he kind of reset the team. He didn't think Jake Plummer was good enough to take him all the way, so he drafted Jay Cutler the next year in 2006 in the first round, and that set off a whole lot of drama with the organization. It looked like in 2008 they were on fire. They started 3-0, and I think all 3 games they scored around 35 points. Jeremy Bates was the offensive coordinator. They were really rolling. They were 8-5, and the San Diego Chargers. Yes, we can call them San Diego Chargers.
We still can.
Yep. Segment.
I'm still going to call them that.
Yeah. The San Diego Chargers were 5-8. So the Broncos have a 3-game lead with 3 to go. And I remember, and the Broncos had just beat the Chiefs, but they lost Payton Hillis to a torn hamstring against the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're 8-5, but they lose Hillis for the year, who had just come on. He was a real firebrand, a real find at that tailback position. And so that hurt them. And then the next week they're in Carolina. They're in the locker room. They have the afternoon game. And the Chargers at 5-8 again are playing the Chiefs. The Chargers are down 21-10 with 2 minutes to go. And the Broncos are all watching that game in the locker room before they're to take the field against Carolina. If the Chiefs hang on 21-10 with 2 minutes to go, the Broncos win the division. And the rest of their season is meaningless, for the most part, meaningless. Well, as they go on the field, I think the Chiefs scored a touchdown with about 30 seconds to go, and the Broncos had to get on the field to play their game. The Chargers then recovered the onside kick. I think it was Vanover, the Chiefs, kind of muffed the onside kick. The Chargers recovered. They go down and score again and win the game. And the Broncos, I think, were so distracted by that game. They go out there and it's like they're going to win the division. They're going to win the division. And they go to they go out on the field against Carolina and just get drummed 30-10. Their mind's not right for that game.
Yeah. So
now it's 8-6 and 6-8. And then the Broncos have the lowly Buffalo Bills the next week, and Brandon Stokely of the Fan is wide open in the end zone, and Cutler throws it into the band. He throws it into the stands. He overthrew it by so much. He just got jittery. They lose to the Bills. They're up 12-0 in that game. They lose to the Bills. And the Bills were bad that year. I think they were 5-9 going into that game. So now the Broncos are 8-7 and the Chargers are 7-8. And the last game is at the Chargers. And the Broncos have no chance. They just get drummed in that game, I think 52-21. Joe Ellis, who was the kind of he was the president, CEO. He was Pat Bolin's right-hand man. He was in the back of the press conference. I remember listening to Mike, and he was really paying attention to the message Mike had. And something, which was strange because Joe never did that. And then so it's 8-8. The Chargers win it on a tiebreaker. They win the division. And 2 days later, Pat Bowlen has a press conference and announces Mike Shanahan has been fired. Patrick Smythe has told me the anecdote that he sent the press release out, to about 5,000 media. And Peter King, who was as big as it gets then, texted him back, you'll never write a bigger press release. Little did he know there would be all kinds of bigger press releases, including Peyton Manning coming to town.
Yeah.
But they had and Pat Bowlen then, you look back and, his health was, I think he was probably it was 2008, starting 2009. He was probably at the very early stages of what would eventually become Alzheimer's. It wasn't Alzheimer's at the time, but he stood up there for 45 minutes and had an interview. And I remember in the interview room, all the assistant coaches were there and were in the interview room because they were all kind of surprised by the announcement. And then Jim Ryan was standing right next to me. And Pat Bowlen said, all the assistant coaches will be fired. They'll be dismissed. We're going to get a whole new assistant coaching staff, which is the first time all those assistant coaches knew that.
Yeah.
And to Jim Ryan's credit, he didn't flinch. He remained stoic. He did not have any reaction, even though he just found out right there from Pat Bowlen that very second that he was fired.
That's crazy.
And then so Pat Bowlen had a masterful, powerful 45-minute press conference announcing the change. And then Mike Shanahan came out and he addressed the media. And it was just a bizarre instance. You can reflect on it many years later like we are. And you can also remember the moment, how bizarre the whole thing was.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at that final season, that 2008 season, it was not great all across the board. They allowed some 458 points, I believe it was, something like that. And then 112 of those, I believe, came in the last 3 games. So it was just a complete collapse. And then you look at the turnover ratio, they were around -17, I believe is the number. Nothing was working for that team. And at some point, you got to switch from it's on the players to it's on the coach. And Mike Shanahan, unfortunately, after the great things that he did, winning in 98 or 97 and 98, just that was his time to go. That was the time to go, and you could see it in those last 3 games. It just kind of came to that point. So what?
Yep.
Now that it's happened and it's passed, was there going to be anything good that came out of it if he were to have stayed for another 5 years or however long his contract was up? I believe it was 5 more years.
Well, yeah, that was what was interesting is it's about Jay Cutler. Mike believed in Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler believed in Mike Shanahan. The way the firing was handled, Jay got very upset.
Yeah.
And he came in soon after it happened. Jay was ticked off. He was ticked off. Mike called after the Chargers loss. Mike called Jay Cutler over in the San Diego locker room, and at Qualcomm Stadium. I mean, it's a jam-packed. It's a terrible locker room. The visiting locker room could barely fit the guys in there. And Mike called Jay Cutler over and said, "Hey, we're going to fix the defense. We're going to be good. We're going to fix the defense," because the offense was. You mentioned how bad the defense was, and it was, but the offense was pretty good. It did start turning the ball over too much at the end of the year. So Jay was pumped that they were going to get it going the next year in 2009. And then they fired Cutler and hired Josh McDaniels. And when they hired Josh McDaniels, who was an offensive coordinator for the New England, it meant the end of Jeremy Bates as the offensive coordinator. And that really irked Jay Cutler. And so Jay Cutler, demanded to be traded. Josh and Cutler had a meeting. Josh actually engaged in trade talks with Cutler. He wanted Matt Castle. and he tried to get Jay Cutler. He was going to trade Jay Cutler for Matt Castle, and that didn't work out. And so that's when Jay really wanted to be traded, when he found out about Josh McDaniels wanting to acquire Matt Castle from New England, where he was. And so that blew up. They had a meeting. Bus Cook, Jay Cutler's agent, Brian Sanders, the Broncos GM at the time, and Josh, there was 2-on-2, a meeting, and it went south. Josh, didn't say the right words. In fact, he pushed the wrong button, and Jay Cutler left and said he wanted to be traded, and Cutler was dealt to the Chicago Bears, and the Broncos got Kyle Orton back. So had they not fired Mike Shanahan, Jay Cutler would have been the Broncos quarterback till, who knows how long.
And you talk about his Peyton Manning even coming here.
It was that's right. So, and then Josh McDaniels, everyone says he was a big mistake, and it turned out that way. But he started 6-0. He had it going. He just didn't have the maturity at the time to handle. He was 6-0, and he thought he made some strange moves. He cut Brett Kern, the punter, and brought in Mitch Berger, who was out of the league. And that was just a subtle move, a move that didn't have to happen. Kern was a rookie. Kern wound up having a fabulous 10, 12, 13-year career in the NFL with a couple of Pro Bowls. But he punted down the middle against San Diego, and Sproles ran it back for a touchdown that turned a 3-touchdown win into a 2-touchdown win for the Broncos. And he cut Brett Kern, and 5 teams claimed him on waivers. And Mitch Berger, in his first game at the Ravens, shanked a couple punts. And the Broncos nosedived from there. They finished 8-8. I think one of only 2 teams in history to start 6-0 and not make the playoffs. And then the team really went downhill the next year.
Yeah.
Dumerville got hurt, who had a big year in 2009. And but yeah, the Josh tenure was so bad, it led to Elway. And it led to John Fox, which righted the ship. Those were the right guys at the right time in 2011. Then 2012, Payton, and then that was the Tebow year. Tebow won 6 in a row. Say what you want about Tebow. He won 6 in a row for this team to get him into the playoffs and won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Threw for 316 in a playoff game. 80 on that first and only play of overtime to Demarius. And then that led to Peyton Manning. And that was the best 4-year run in Broncos history. So it's hard to say. Looking back, all these things had to happen to lead to Peyton Manning in the glory years. And then it fell off again. And now let's see, Sean Payton and Bo Nix can resurrect the glory, bring back the glory again. It's promising at the moment.
Yeah.
But still a long way to go to reach, what Bronco country remembers as 97, 98, and that span of 2012 to 2015.
Yeah. And no, that kind of brings me to my next question with Sean Payton, kind of switching it onto there, is that, you look at Shanahan and what he did. He was about 50% in his seasons if he was going to the playoffs or was not. And those 3 seasons where he didn't were crucial. Those were those last 3 seasons were the things that ultimately led to the final nail in the casket. And looking at, 50% in the 3 seasons, how crucial was it for Sean Payton to make the playoffs? Thankfully, he did this year. But if he didn't this year, would it be necessary that he had to make the playoffs next season or else he was gone?
I don't know about that, because if you remember last year, they were 8-9. And then they had the whole Russell Wilson fallout with the $53 million in dead cap. And there were no expectations on the Broncos last year. Had they gone with a rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, had they gone 6-11, I don't think there would have been anything that stated that Sean Payton was a failure, because they had all that dead cap from Russ.
I agree.
It was a step back to take 2 step forward strategy. And last year was supposed to be a step back. They didn't. They wound up taking another step forward.
A major step forward.
Yeah. And so now there are greater expectations, but had they been 6-11 last year, I think Sean still would have been safe. First of all, that there's all kinds of reports and I've heard my own numbers, but let's say he's making $20 million a year. And I'm not reporting that's what he's making, but a lot of people have speculated that.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's one thing to eat Mike Shanahan's salary at $7 million a year. It's another thing to eat $20 million a year for a head coaching salary.
Yeah.
So, if they were, let's say they were 6-11 last year, still better than expectations. I don't think Sean and the Broncos would have had to make the playoffs this year just to keep his job. I think I think progress is what you're looking for. Had they, if they were 6-11 last year, if he was 8 or 9 wins this year, I think he's back for his 4th year. So expectations are greater than that now. I think the expectations for this team are now. You saw the over and under is 9.5.
Yeah.
The expectations are 10 wins or better again.
Yeah.
And make the playoffs again. So we'll see how this year turns out. It's promising. I'm a little more skeptical than most on the free agent class because of all the injuries, recent injuries behind their signs.
Yeah.
If they stay healthy, great signs.
Yeah.
But just, as it always is with any free agent you sign, buyer beware.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's always a great time. You had some really great insight into this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that the Shanahan firing was, I just remember walking out of those press conferences and saying, boy, that was bizarre.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree with the decision to fire him because, like I said, he had 10 years. But it set off a chain reaction of unfortunate events before things started going the right way again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, we're going towards the golden years once again.
All righty.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining the rundown today. We'll be back with you guys on Monday. A lot of big stuff coming up, of course, as we creep closer and closer to the draft. It's just getting more and more exciting. But until then, I will see you guys all later. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye. I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the